Congressman Carson, were you surprised that Chairman Nunes didn't share this information with the committee, or at least Congressman Schiff, before speaking to the media and the president about it?
Well, I was deeply disappointed. I think committee protocol has been to share with the ranking member, and ranking member Schiff has been such a tremendous asset and a powerful voice on the committee. It was quite disappointing.
Should Nunes have gone to the White House at all? I mean, isn't your committee investigating potential contacts between people in the Trump campaign and Russia, people who might potentially be in the White House right now?
Well, I think that ranking member Schiff makes a very important point that we should possibly start looking at a special investigator who can provide the kind of objectivity that will be necessary in unearthing the truth and getting to the bottom of this. It's unfortunate. I mean, we can remember that Chairman Nunes, who I've worked with, I've traveled with, he was on the transition team, and one wonders how cozy he has become to the administration. In fact, the fact that he has access to top secret information, for him to go directly to the White House without consulting the ranking member is quite disappointing.
So you think actually a special investigator or a select committee may be necessary?
I think that the committee, both the House and Senate Intel committees, have traditionally been very bipartisan. They've done a great job, as we're seeing now. The Intelligence Committee has done a great job at getting us to this point. But the fact that Chairman Nunes was quick to run over to the White House without notifying ranking member Schiff gives us greater concern that we need an objective voice and eyes and ears.
The notion the President of the United States said he thinks this gives him partial vindication, does that make any sense to you?
Well, I think it makes sense for President Trump. It doesn't make sense for me as a former law enforcement officer, one who has worked at Indiana Department of Homeland Security and counterterrorism, and one who is committed to keeping Americans safe and making sure we support the men and women in our intelligence communities and the hard work that they do. It gives me concern. In fact, if incidental collection was a mass, then of course we'll find out later what was involved and what it entailed. But in a very real sense, I think President Trump has to make political statements, and a part of that goes along with his theme of being an entertainer, a showman. He wants to feel vindicated. He's created this narrative of the world against me, and it has worked well for him, but I think in Washington, D.C., he has sabotaged himself to the degree that the American people's trust in our electoral process has waned considerably.
Lastly, I want to ask you about your meeting with President Trump at the White House today with Congressional Black Caucus leadership. Can you tell us what came out of that meeting, particularly what you conveyed to the president, what your takeaway was?
Well, the executive team met, led by Chairman Cedric Richmond. We had the highest-ranking African-American in Congress, Assistant Minority Leader Jim Clyburn there, and we had a very serious meeting where we pressed the president on issues involving infrastructure, involving education, involving criminal justice reform, involving job creation. And I even pressed him not only on continuing the support for law enforcement. You know, just last year we saw over $300 million cut from the COPS program. So I encouraged him and we pressed him to make sure that we strengthen the relationships between law enforcement and the community, where we get rid of the distrust and the racial profiling that's taking place. But also I pressed him on what we know to be the travel ban, or honestly the Muslim ban. I reminded the president that nearly a third of the slaves brought here during the inception of this country were Muslims. Muslims work in our intelligence services, law enforcement community. They're lawyers, they're judges, they're doctors, they're engineers. They help each and every day to keep Americans safe and provide us with the necessary information we need to stay intact as a country. And so I pressed the president on that, and I was very firm.
Congressman Carson, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
What an honor. Thank you.